Hello there. Happy Money Monday, and welcome back to another episode of the Empowered and Abundant podcast. This week, we are going to be talking about 3 specific tools that I use to help my clients transition into being a full-time business owner sooner rather than later. So if you're on this journey of maybe you have a 9-to-5 job, maybe you have some like part-time jobs, and you're also growing your business, building your business, and you have a dream of going full time in your business and having your business be your sole source of income, providing your lifestyle, and being able to be fully financially supported by your business, then these 3 specific tools are going to make a huge difference in your ability to be able to take this leap, in your ability to make this transition. These are tools I teach to my clients in the Empowered Abundance program. They're also the same tools that I used in order to make my transition into full-time business owner. So I'm really excited to dive into this conversation today. And before we do, I have to let you know that enrollment is open for the Empowered Abundance program. So if you hear everything we talk about today and you want to take this to the next level, if you have the dream to go full-time into your business, to have your business be the revenue, be the financial engine that supports your most abundant life, then this is what I teach in the Empowered Abundance program. And enrollment is ending soon for this round. At the time of this recording, enrollment ends April 17th. So if you're interested in taking this to the next level and having Empowered Abundance support you on your journey, book a free consultation with me and we'll take this conversation further and we'll decide if Empowered Abundance is really the right next step for you. So you can book that consultation using the link in the show notes below or going to my website, thebizhippie.com/abundance. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in and talk about 3 specific tools that will help you transition into your business full-time faster. The first tool is what I call determining your transition point. And in Empowered Abundance, this tool specifically is what I call a transition blueprint. So what this tool is, what this practice is determining when is your unique best point of transition out of whatever it is, whether it's a full-time job or a part-time job, into full-time business, into your next level of abundance. Now, this is super simple. I'm sure like when you hear it stated, it's super simple, but it's also a practice that most people are missing. And it has a really big impact on your ability to go full-time in your business, and especially to go full-time in your business as fast as possible. What your transition point is first of all, it is a unique moment in time specific to you. Now, here's the thing. Everyone's transition point is different because we're all living different lives. We're all in different financial realities. And so determining your transition point is figuring out what is the exact right amount of money for your business to be bringing in order for you to know when is the right time to transition. Now, there is not a right answer for everybody. It's not like, yep, once you're making $5,000 every month in your business, then you transition. It's not simple like that because, again, everyone's situation is unique, but also everyone's financial desires and priorities is unique. So in Empowered Abundance, again, I have a very specific tool to walk you through this, but the conversation that I have with my clients is determining, okay, what's your level of risk tolerance? Are you somebody who you're willing to be really risky because you want to go full-time faster? What's more important to you? Is it transitioning as fast as possible and like I'm willing to risk a bunch of stuff. I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of my lifestyle. I'm willing to give up Netflix. I'm willing to give up X, Y, and Z so that I can transition as fast as possible. Or is your lifestyle important to you? You're like, yep, I pretty much want my life to be the same. I have my comforts. I have, the things that make me feel good. I want to be able to keep getting my nails done. I want to be able to keep whatever, having my monthly massages, and that's when I want to transition, is I want to be able to maintain my lifestyle. And then, wherever you are on that spectrum, considering your risk tolerance, considering the type of lifestyle you want to live, considering what you're willing to give up, what you're willing to sacrifice, considering your desired timeline, that's going to give you a different transition point. That's going to give you a different number to know how much money exactly do you need to be bringing in your business in order to make that transition possible, but also sustainable. Now, exactly what your transition point is, it is a specific number. And I'm sure we all have like general ideas of this, right? If I talk to business owners, I say like, oh yeah, like what's your goal? And people have an idea. It's like, yep, I want to consistently be making $5,000 a month in my business. But often this number is not totally based on something. We haven't taken the time to consider all of the factors, even the simplest factor of how much money do you need to be making now in order to survive, in order to be living your current lifestyle. Most people have an idea based on what they're currently making in their 9-to-5 job. That's like one example, but it's not a specific, very clear number. And I love to get specific, and especially when it comes to determining your transition point, because what happens is when you don't have a transition point that you've determined based on your numbers, your unique set of circumstances, your unique priorities, is it takes the idea of transitioning into your business full time and it kind of puts it off in the future. We think like, okay, just when I feel like I have enough money, then I'm going to make that transition, or once I hit X amount of revenue. But that's not necessarily based on reality. It's not based on our financial reality and our priorities, our desires, and our needs. And so what happens is one of two things. One, either we never really transition because we think, okay, I'll transition when I finally feel like I have enough money, but we don't know what that amount is. And so even if we are making more and more, but we're not in control of our finances, we don't really know where it's going. It feels like no matter how much we make, we just like somehow end up spending more and it goes out as fast as it comes in. We never really feel like we actually have enough in order to live, in order to support ourselves full time with our business. That feeling of enoughness that we're looking for in order to take the leap, it doesn't arrive. And therefore we stay stuck in 9-to-5 jobs that we don't like longer than we need to, because we don't know our transition point exactly and we're not measuring to see if we're getting closer to it. The other problem is you might, have a desired amount that you want to make in your business. Maybe it's like, whatever, $5,000 a month, or like once I hit 6 figures, then I'm going to transition to my business full time. And then you do that, but you haven't set up the foundations, the financial foundations, to be able to sustain that. We haven't zoomed out and looked at the big picture. And so even though in your mind you think you have enough money, it's not matching the reality of the life you're actually living. And therefore, you can't make it last. You don't know if you can actually support yourself off of that amount. And all of this prevents us from transitioning in a way that is sustainable. And one other piece to this is, in order to have a transition blueprint and determine your unique point of transition, you also have to have some control over your money. And this is really important because one is seeing your money very clearly, having a financial blueprint, knowing your numbers. That's helps you determine your unique transition point, because then you know in reality, how much do you spend each month? How much money do you need in order to survive? But also it helps you be in control of these situations and be in control of these circumstances. So for example, if you wanted to transition out of your 9-to-5 sooner rather than later, and that was what was most important to you, was transitioning as fast as possible, when you can see your numbers clearly, when you have a transition blueprint and you're determining your unique point of transition, you can choose to let go of things that are less important to you. So for example, I could be like, yep, I'm going to stop eating out. I'm going to give up Netflix, and I'm going to stop, I don't know, something else. I'm going to stop shopping. And I could make those choices easily. Not saying that's what you should do. That's definitely not the advice I'm giving, is cut out everything so you can transition. No, again, this goes back to your unique transition point. But if I know for me that my biggest priority is leaving my 9-to-5 job as fast as possible, and I am willing to give up a lot of things in order to do that, now I have control over that. Now I get to play an active role in determining the right time to transition, and also I can be in control of speeding up that timeline or slowing down that timeline. It's putting more in my control. And also, now I have a specific goal, a very specific destination that I am working towards. If I know I need exactly 5K a month in my business consistently, and I know that I want 3 months of savings so that I can have a sense of safety, then I know exactly what goal to work towards in my business, and I know exactly when I've hit that so that I can start to implement the transition. So for me, a personal story is I did a slow transition, and I'll talk more about this as well throughout this episode. Is I was in the restaurant industry. I was waitressing, waiting tables. And when I first started waiting tables while growing my business, I was working 3 days a week at the restaurant. And then as my business started to make more money, I faded from 3 days a week to 2 days a week. And then I had faded to 1 day a week. And my business was making good, consistent money. And I had just gone to 1 day a week, and I was actually really excited to have my business be making money and to be bringing a little extra cash in on the side because I had other goals that I wanted to focus on. I was like, sweet, finally I can start saving up for things that I do anyway, like traveling and investing in my business in really big ways. And I was excited to have that extra money coming in. But then at that exact same time that I transitioned to 1 day a week, I was presented with an opportunity to go sailing and to sail on a boat from Maine, so on the east coast of the US, from Maine all the way down to Florida. And it was just come sail with us for an indefinite amount of time, live on this boat basically, and run your business. And I didn't know how long I was going to be on this boat for, and it didn't make sense for me working at this restaurant 1 day a week to just be I don't know when I'm coming back. So I realized I had a choice in that moment. Either I could go on this boat indefinitely and just throw time to the wind and be whatever, I'm a free bird, I'm going to go sailing, or I could not go sailing and I could go work 1 day a week at the restaurant. And so I made the decision to leave the restaurant. And yeah, it was scary and intimidating because I was looking forward to having actual extra cash flowing in. But I made that decision with confidence because I had done this step of determining my unique transition point, and I knew I could pull it off. I wasn't just taking a leap of faith on my business, although yes, I was, but also I looked at the numbers and I said, yeah, I am actually hitting just on the edge, just capable of pulling this off, of making this last, of making this sustainable. So even though it felt like a risk, I knew I could do it because the numbers were showing me that, because I had done this step of determining my unique transition point and having awareness and control over my finances, and therefore having awareness and control over when I left the business. So I did take that leap and I totally pulled it off, and now I've been full-time for over 1.5 years. And yes, sometimes it is risky. Business can be volatile. You don't always know what's going to happen in the future, which is why we have to be in control of what we can be in control of, which is knowing and choosing our unique transition point and being able to manipulate the situation and the circumstances in order to actually reach and achieve that goal. So that's step one. That's the first tool that's going to help you transition full-time into your business way faster than if you don't know these numbers, if you haven't gone through the thought process of determining your unique transition point. The second tool that's going to make a huge difference to going full-time in your business is having aligned pricing for your offers. In Empowered Abundance, I have a specific tool to walk you through this called the Offer Pricing Secret Sauce. But this is something that so many entrepreneurs are missing, especially if you're in the service provider space. So if you're a coach, if you're a healer, and if you are just setting your own pricing and the thing that you're offering is you in some way, it's some service that you're providing. It can be hard to find the aligned price point because it's like, what do I base it off of? Especially when it doesn't feel tangible, when it doesn't feel real, maybe when you're just starting out and you're not 100% confident in your ability to deliver. You don't know what it's worth. You don't know if people are going to really pay for it. You don't really know if you're worthy and deserving of receiving money for it. And so often what we do is we look around and we try to find something to compare it to. So maybe we compare it to what we're getting paid in another area. Like, for example, I have had personal trainers who base it off of their personal training hourly rate, or other like 9-to-5ers who kind of base it off of their 9-to-5 hourly rate. Or you compare it to other like coaches and other people you've seen in the industry. And you just try to gauge and determine a price point for you. And then also another factor that comes in is a price point that you feel comfortable with, that you feel confident in. Like that also ends up playing a role. But the problem with this method of pricing is it's kind of arbitrary and it's not in alignment with your specific transition point that we talked about. If you have a specific goal because you've done the first step of determining your transition point, so now you have a specific revenue goal or income goal that you are working towards, you need to align your price point with that end goal. And you can actually reverse engineer your price point to help you get to achieving that goal of reaching your transition point and being able to transition. So what happens is if we just set arbitrary price points, this could happen in a couple ways. One is maybe you are being really successful in your business. You're taking on more and more clients. Maybe you actually get full. You're like, wow, I have 10 clients and I feel like I can't take any more. Maybe it's 20, whatever the amount is. And suddenly you have a full practice. You're spending a lot of time on your business. You don't really have more time to give. And yet you're not making enough money to actually transition out of your 9-to-5 job and into your business full time. Now, again, this is doubled up by the point of needing to know what that number actually is, which is why the first tool is so important. But let's say you do know that number, right? So you're basically full-time in hours, or you're at the capacity, your current capacity of your hours, maybe even with your full-time job. But even if you were to take on more clients and make your business full-time, it's not enough to actually support yourself financially. So that's one significant problem. The other problems are, it's not just the numbers that go into our pricing, it's also our mindset and our energy that goes into our pricing. And therefore, this can actually repel clients. And we can be on the flip side of that coin of having misaligned pricing in some way. And it's hard for us to even sign clients and therefore make enough money again to be able to go full time. And so this is a simple practice that most people are missing. And again, Empowered Abundance, I walk you through my offer pricing secret sauce, which really helps you do this with a lot of clarity. But essentially, your pricing is just a simple math formula. It's determining, okay, based on how much time I have, based on the amount of money I want to bring in, based on how much energy I have available, what does my price actually need to be? How can I reverse engineer my pricing in order to be able to actually support myself full time with this? And then on top of that, how can I feel really confident in my ability to have this price point and believe I'm actually capable of delivering at this level? So it is the tangible price, but it's also the beliefs and the energetics behind the price. So for example, what I'm saying is if you want to be bringing in $5,000 a month and you're like, yep, I believe I can sell one client a month and I'm just going to sell one client and they're going to pay me $5,000 and that's my price. Awesome. You've done the mathematics part of determining the price point that works for you. But then do you actually believe, do you have the confidence level, the worthiness level to actually sell at that price point. And most people are missing one or the other. Either they're totally in alignment with their price. They're like, yeah, it's nice and low and easy and I'm confident in it, but I can't support myself on this income, or we're too far on the other side. You're like, yes, I can definitely support myself with this income. It's going to be bringing in lots of money. And yet I don't feel confident in my ability to sell it because I'm not genuinely in alignment with this price. Now, again, if we have a specific goal that we're working towards, a transition point revenue amount, then we can reverse engineer all of these factors and we can find that balance between how much do you actually need to be making and how can you feel energetically in alignment with this price point so that it is easier for you to sell. And even if it's not 100% the price point that you need to be selling at in order to support yourself full time, we can still manipulate the other factors to find a way so that you can be able to support yourself full time. Maybe that means taking on more clients for a time and letting yourself be really busy, but knowing that you're going to continue to increase your price point and work up your belief to be able to charge more and more, and then find that perfect balance of time, energy, and money. So really what this practice is it's looking at all of these factors objectively, especially around your price point, so that you can make sure the offer that you're selling and the money that you're receiving is actually working you towards the goal of being able to go full time in your business. Because it's a really hard place to be when you actually are pouring time and energy into your business, when you actually are taking on clients, especially if you're balancing a 9-to-5 job and you're bringing in money, and yet it's not enough to support yourself financially. It can feel like a really sticky and hard place, and it can make it feel like actually being able to transition just feels way out of reach. And that's why we need to determine your aligned pricing now so that you can either start using that aligned pricing or you can continue to work up to the specific goal of the pricing that is going to actually be able to support you full time and is in alignment with your transition point. Okay, now the third tool that I teach my clients how to use, this one's a little different, but it's equally as important, and that is seeing and comparing different income opportunities. And this is really important because a lot of people that I talk to are in black and white thinking either I am in a 9-to-5 job full-time, working full-time hours, or I'm full-time in my business, but there's no in between. And it's one or the other. Either they're in their job and they feel like they have to stay trapped in this job for the long term until they can take this big leap in the business, or they've already leapt into the business and they're kind of struggling to make ends meet and they do need extra cash coming in and they're like, oh, I don't want to go back to a 9-to-5 job. And it just seems like it's one or the other, either all in the business or all in the 9-to-5. But the truth is like, this is a spectrum. And there's a lot of options between full-time job and full-time business and other ways to bring in money. And I like to look at these income opportunities as stepping stones to transition. And again, this goes back to knowing your numbers, knowing your transition point. This really plays a key role in being able to do this successfully and do this well. Because if you don't know these numbers and you're in this black and white thinking, then often what's happening is you're wasting time and energy on something that isn't that important. So let's just say, for example, you are running your business, you're making some money in your business. It's not really enough to support you full time, but you can see your numbers clearly. You know exactly how much you're missing each month in order to survive, in order to keep living. And let's just say it's $1,000. You're like, I just need an extra $1,000 a month. And I know that to be the case because I can see my numbers, because I'm in control of my finances and therefore in control of my life. It doesn't make sense for you if you only needed like an extra $1,000 a month to go get a full-time job and spend 40 hours, if not more, a week pouring into a full-time job that's paying you more than $1,000 a month. I mean, unless you want more money for a specific purpose. But what actually makes more sense is to find an aligned, unique income opportunity that helps bring in that extra $1,000 a month for the least amount of time, so that you can keep pouring as much time and energy into your business as possible and continue to get your financial needs met. And it's really important to explore different income opportunities so that you can determine the best opportunities for you, the one that has the most time, energy, money exchange, the one that is genuinely the most in alignment for you and the most valuable. And this is also important because often when we try to leap into our business, we're resistant to other sources of income. This was the case for me because when I first started my business, I was full-time. I was plowing through my savings and all I was doing was working on my business and I wasn't making any money. And I used to think like, oh, if I go get a job, then it means I've failed. Then it means my business isn't good enough. Then it means I've quit on myself. And I made making extra money mean all these things about me. But then I had a shift in mindset and I realized that me actually choosing to bring in more money from waitressing, that was my aligned income opportunity, was me continuing to choose the business because I chose to generate more money to pay my bills so I could stop bringing scarcity and fear into my business because scarcity doesn't sell. You need to make sure your basic expenses and bills are met because if you're in scarcity and you're running your business, it's really hard to sell people. It's really, really hard. So you need to find how you can continue to support yourself financially and even continue to invest in the business. That's the other reason why I was so willing to waitress and why I changed this mindset and this story is because, yes, I will waitress to make money so I can keep investing in coaching and getting my own business coaching, in traveling, and investing in business growth. Me choosing to bring in more money was me choosing my business and gave me the, energetic alignment so I can pour energy into my business. But also I didn't just go work at a full-time waitressing every single day. I said exactly how much money do I need to be bringing in order to support my foundational needs. And that's exactly how many hours I'm going to work at this restaurant. And it could be creative. It could be a million other things. And so the other value that comes from going through this income opportunities practice is opening your perspective to just see the abundance of opportunities that are here for you. So often we're taught this limited view of ways that we can make money. And some of my clients, they don't believe that they actually can support themselves in other ways besides a 9-to-5 job. So this also opens up the perspective to see, wow, I really can support myself financially in different ways and doing other things that I enjoy. So this is the third tool that makes a huge difference in Empowered Abundance. I actually have a really fun tool that helps you compare and assess different income opportunities in an objective way so that you can really determine the best one for you based on your income needs, based on your time, based on your energy, and based on your alignment. Like, what would you actually enjoy doing? Okay, so when you have these three tools, your transition point, your offer pricing, and your income opportunities, these are three tools that will help you transition full-time into your business fast. But the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is if you have the desire to transition full-time into your business, you have to start the process now. You have to start determining your transition point. You have to align your pricing. You have to be bringing revenue or income in some way to begin implementing this transition. Like I told you earlier, for me, my transition took 3 years. I worked in the restaurant industry for 3 years in order to transition into my business full time. But it was always me working towards that goal and actively making progress towards that goal. And the sooner you implement these steps, the sooner you use these tools, use these skills, the sooner you'll actually be walking the path to bring your transition into reality, because it's normal that it takes a while to transition. It takes a while to build up business success. Business is a long-term strategy, especially if you want to transition in a way that is sustainable and long-lasting. So I really want you to take away, how can you start the process of transitioning and building the plan and building the strategy to implement today so that you can transition, whether that means transitioning in 6 months, a year, or maybe a couple of years. However long it actually takes you, when you start now, you're moving that much faster towards actually bringing it into reality. And if you're someone who wants to make this transition faster, if you're serious about leaving a 9-to-5 job or part-time jobs, if you're serious about going full-time in your business, knowing when is the right time for you, how do you plan this transition? How do you make sure your business is supporting you financially? How do you do it in a way that is sustainable and long-lasting? Then Empowered Abundance is the perfect program to help you do that, because I'll help you get in control of your money and go through these steps, go through these processes, and use these tools so that your strategy for going full time becomes an inevitable path that you are walking on. And you can start implementing and taking the steps towards actually making that transition starting right now, and not just hoping that you can do it someday when you make enough money, but actually knowing the plan, knowing the strategy, and using your money very intentionally to help you get there. Like I said, this is exactly the process that I used to go full-time in my business over a year and a half ago. And these are also the same tools that I teach my clients as well. So if you're ready to really take this to the next level and go full-time in your business and feel fully supported by the work that you love, then go ahead and book a consultation where we can talk more about the Empowered Abundance program and exactly what this could look like for you. Go ahead and use the link in the show notes below to book your free consultation, or go to my website, thebizhippie.com/abundance. Again, enrollment is ending soon on April 17th, so make sure you go ahead and book a consultation with me before enrollment closes. And the last thing I'll say is that it is so possible for you to go full-time in your business. It's possible for you to support yourself financially with the work that you love, and I know because I have done it. And I promise you, when you get in control of your money in this way, it makes it feel possible and real. And I am here to support you on this journey. Okay, have a great rest of your Money Monday, and I will see you next week.